Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Romapada Swami Niti Namine. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. We will continue with the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. I'm sorry, last week I couldn't take up this session. I had a severe backache and I couldn't even manage to sit, so I had to cancel it in the last minute. Pardon me for that. Now, let's continue from where we stopped. Let me share my screen. So, we began our understanding of this 15th chapter from what Krishna described the relationship between the material world and the spiritual world. And he goes on with it through a verse which is given even in the Upanishads. And that's no wonder the Gita is also called the Gita Upanishad. Because like the Brahma Sutra, which takes verses from different Upanishads and stitches them together, giving them a theme that runs across the different Upanishads. Likewise, the Bhagavad Gita too takes philosophical points and sometimes even some verses directly from the Upanishads and puts them into the right perspective. And who else to tell what is right or what is the right meaning or interpretation other than the Supreme Lord, from whom the Vedas have emanated. So Krishna has said, Urdvamulam adashakam ashwatham prahuravyayam chandamsi yasya parnani yastam veda savedavet. He said this material world is like this banyan tree which is upside down. Ashwathama tree. Ashwatha tree, not Ashwathama, Ashwatha tree. We discussed the meaning of the word Ashwatha, and we went in detail of how we are having a lopsided perception of this world. In this world, we desire our focus to be our own selves, just like the root of a tree is that which sustains. But if you see the reflection, the leaves of the tree are the ones which looks to be at the bottom. So we think that the leaves of the tree are the sustenance. And therefore, our sustenance, we think, usually comes from the different leaves of this tree, like the economic development, religiosity, sense gratification. It's dharma, artha, kama. We think these are the ones which sustain us. And if not for this, we will lose our existence. Whereas the root of it is actually, we talked about 3 levels of the root. One, and I mean, all of them finally come back to the Supreme Lord in his various manifestations. And having discussed this, we said the real form of the tree cannot be perceived, but it can be cut with the acts of detachment. So how to do it? And this is where we spent a lot of time in our previous session. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvandver vimukta sukha dukkha samner gacchantya mudha padamavyayam tat. So Krishna says, if you have to go to the spiritual world, now that we are in this material world, if you have to go to this spiritual world, which is indicated by the word padam avyayam tat, that avyayam, inexhaustible, or which is never going to be destroyed. Padam. The word pada means a place, a spiritual, a position there. It is not just a state of being. It is actually a particular position or a particular loka there. And to do that, nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama. One has to let go of one's moha. Let me come to this verse here. It becomes easy for you. One has to let go of one's moha or illusion. The sanga dosha, the impact of the bad association that we have had and what we are already creating to others too, because of our previous impressions, the impressions from our previous births. And then adhyatma nitya, one has to be involved in spiritual activities daily, vinivritta kamaha, having disassociated oneself from lust. Now, this is where we stopped last time. Now we'll try to move further here. This 15th chapter, a few verses are very important, or actually many verses are important. This one among them is this 5th verse. And then we are going to come to the group of verses, the 6, 7, 8, very important, and 15th verse. So let's go through these verses one by one, because each of these verses, if we follow in our own lives, you will see a change. You will see an empowerment. You will see that a new spiritual perspective has come and life will no longer be the same. And it's very important for us to really appreciate it. I don't think I can do justice to it. But as you all chant and as you all read these verses again and again, Krishna will definitely bestow upon you the real transcendental realization coming from these verses. So in this 5th verse, we stopped it with saying Padam Avyayam Tat. If somebody is free from false prestige, illusion, false association, understands the eternal being and being done with material lust, such unbewildered person surrender unto the Supreme Person and attain to that eternal kingdom. Padam Avyayam Tat. Now, let's come to the next verse here. Na tad bhasyate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. Now he's qualifying that loka. And how is he saying? That the word loka or the spiritual world was expressed by the word padam. Now in this verse, it is being expressed by the word dhama. Dhama means residence or the planetary systems, etc. So tad dhama, that loka is mine. What is that? Na tad bhasyate suryo na shashanko na bhavakaha. That world is not illuminated by Surya, the sun. So sun illuminates our world in the morning. Na shashanko, moon illuminates our world at night. Even moon doesn't illuminate that world. Na bhavakaha. And very interesting thing here. Srila Prabhupada translates this verse as, that supreme abode of mind is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. Yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. Yad gatva, having gone there, na nivartante, not coming back. Tad dhama, that abode, paramam mama. That supreme abode is my abode. This is what Krishna is saying here. So Srila Prabhupada, he has written that for the word pavakaha, he has written fire or electricity. Now, electricity is an invention of, say, the 19th century. And Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita in 3300 BC, somewhere around that. 4,000 and odd years prior to this. No, little more, 5,100, I think so. Yeah. So, how can Srila Prabhupada translate this as electricity? Right? You may have that question. And the reason Srila Prabhupada has translated this word pavakaha as electricity is for us to impress that it is not just, like these days, we have coal, which is another manifestation of fire, which illuminates our homes. And in addition to it, we also have electricity. Electricity comes from, say, hydroelectric sources, which is not from the sun, which is not from the moon, which is not from Agni. but it is from, say, from hydroelectric power, we get electricity. But the point which Krishna is trying to say here is there is no external source of illumination. It is actually illuminated by his own body. To emphasize that, Srila Prabhupada has given this word for the modern audience. In fact, these days, sometimes when children have been asked, where does food grows in the supermarket? Because the children have never been exposed to the farm. They don't know that the food grows in the farm, and from the farm it is brought to the supermarket, etc. They only see the nearest source from which they can get everything. For us, we don't go and see how electricity is generated. It could be a nuclear plant, it could be a hydroelectric plant, or anything else. And so Srila Prabhupada said, let me cover all the sources of illumination so that the modern audience knows that the illumination in the spiritual world is not through external sources. And this is something, again, we have never seen, like one person's bodily effulgence illuminating the whole world. In our case, we need the illumination of the world around us to be on us so that others can see. Only when there is light impinging on me, others can see. But for the Supreme Lord, the light emanating from his body illuminates the entire spiritual world. And as per the scriptures, that is also the source of energy for the sun and the moon. It's a very transcendental arrangement, not easy for us to understand with our limited brains. So that's one point here about Srila Prabhupada. The second thing here, in practicing spirituality, people often come with an understanding that, God has various forms, and God has various ways in which we can reach him. And so we shouldn't be telling that God has a loka or a abode, etc. In fact, we are all going to become one with that absolute truth. These section of verses, from this verse for the next few verses onwards, actually dispel that illusion and dispel that myth. First and foremost, people say, why should God be restricted to an abode? Now, the question that can come is, why not that he should have an abode? If jivas can have an abode, why should the Supreme Lord not have an abode? If you go to there's a famous hymn in the Rig Veda and Yajur Veda, and of course even in the Sama Veda, which is called the Purusha Sukta. In the Purusha Sukta, it is said, Tripada Syamritam Divi. Tripada, it said, his abode is made up of three pada. That is, 3/4 of this whole world is actually his. What does it actually mean? It means, if we put the agglomerated material world, all the galaxies, everything put together, that still is in one sense just a quarter. Just to give a scale, it is said that it is much more, the spiritual world is much more than this material world. Even the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Sama Veda, all of them which have this Purusha Sukta verse tell that there is a spiritual world. So, before we start reading the Bhagavad Gita, if we had a conception that no, God is a diffused energy entity, no, that is incorrect. At least as per the Bhagavad Gita and as per the Rig Veda and the Yajur Veda and Sam Veda, he has a spiritual abode. And this spiritual abode brings forth a new set of dependencies or a new set of implications. What is that? Let's come here. Text 7. Mamaivamsho jiva loke jiva bhutas sanatanaha manas shashtani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. So Krishna says, Mama eva amsho jiva loke jiva bhutas sanatanaha. So there is a spiritual world where we all have to come to. That is the previous verse. And then what about us? Krishna says, Mama eva amsho jiva loke. The living entities are just an amsha. So there are two words that I want to focus on. Mama and amsha here. Okay. So he says, Mama eva amsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Fragmental because amsha means a part, a fragment. Jiva bhutaha sanatanaha, eternally. Sanatanaha means eternally. Prakritisthani karshati. Karshati is struggling hard. And so, because of being in this material world, which is this conditioned life, they're struggling hard with what? Manaha, the mind. Shashtani indriyani, the six senses. So, with the six senses includes the mind, like the five senses, and then comes the mind. Totally, it forms the six senses here. So, Krishna is now clearly telling here, the jivas are his eternal fragmental parts, which means there is the whole is bigger than the part. The part is just a part. The whole is bigger. So therefore, those of us who think that we are qualitatively and quantitatively one with the Supreme Lord should understand from this verse that it is not so. At least this is not what Krishna is telling. At least this is not what Bhagavad Gita is telling. We can have our own speculative ideas and we can always propose our ideas. Nothing wrong in it. Everybody has the freedom of speech. They can tell what they want. But from the perspective of Krishna and Bhagavad Gita, we are not equal to the absolute truth. And this gives us to give certain implications. He says, Mama eva amsho. We are this fragmental part. It is very important to understand and to realize that we are this amsha. If we don't understand we are this amsha or fragmental part, it so happens that without an understanding of the spiritual truth, we all bring up with certain projects in our life. Like, for example, you take the case of Vladimir Putin, who's the ruling Russia right now. He wants to bring back the glory and the greatness of Russia, the Russia of the 17th century, through which everybody, like a good portion of the European world was controlled. He wants that control. Now, if a person truly understands that he's amsha, he's a fragmental part, he or she will know that I can't control everything in this world. He will not even get into such foolish activities. In fact, in the Bhumi Gita, which is another Gita, like there are several Gitas, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhumi Gita, Uddhava Gita, Rudra Gita, etc. So in the Bhumi Gita, which is in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Mother Earth tells the Supreme Lord, so many big kings came, they conquered so many territories, all of them are lying now as dust in my bosom, in the earth. I mean, their body was burnt and then it was burnt to ashes and it is all there in Mother Earth now. That's it. So in the same way, knowing the fact that we are Amsha helps us to keep in check from doing grandiose things which are way beyond our abilities. In fact, sometimes people get so caught up in trying to prove themselves to themselves and to the world that I can achieve it, that they lose the peace of mind and they lose the focus of their life. They create a problem for themselves and for those who are living with them. And that's too bad. And sometimes when we are Amsha, as Amsha, we are not satisfied with what we have received. We try to live it through our children. If I have not studied well as a child, I will try to ensure that my children study well. And when these children study well, they get a good position. I want to relive what I lost through my children because they are mine. So that's primarily because this Amsha, we are not able to understand carefully that finiteness comes with the fact that we can't achieve everything that we think of. There is only something that we can think, that we can do. Now, let's contrast with the other side. Krishna also says, Mama. He's saying, you are Mama Amsha. So, if what I said is true, it means never try for anything big. Just know your limits and stay within those limits. That's okay. Don't have great ambitions in life. So, to balance that, Krishna says, Mama. He says, if you want to come to my Dhamma, know very well that it is not an easy thing to do. It is one of the toughest things to do. In fact, we as human beings, we are not even able to go to moon directly so easily. We'll have to do so many histrionics. And even after going there, survival is not easy. What about going to the spiritual loka? It's very tough. But he says, because you are connected to me, this mama, because you are connected to me, I will give you the strength by which you can do so. So Krishna gives us the strength to connect to him to go to the spiritual world. And while we are in this material world, he will give us the strength to accomplish things for him which are very tough. So the Amsha word is meant to indicate to us that as long as we are at the center of our plans, we should always consider, I'm just a small person. I can only do so much. But the moment we have Krishna at the center, wanting to please something for Krishna, know very well that Krishna can do the impossible. He will let it happen. So that's the difference. Where we have to work as Amsha, as finite parts, and where we'll have to work as Mama Amsha, Krishna's parts. If we can work for Krishna, anything impossible becomes possible. That was the mood with which Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, established ISKCON. Who can think that people of different countries will be chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? Who can think that they can give up their habits and work for a guru who just wants them to stop eating meat, stop drinking alcohol, going along with the men and women outside of marriage and having illicit relationships, etc.? Who can think of that? Furthermore, who can think that he could change their interest from being masters of this world to being servants of Krishna? That was possible. Srila Prabhupada had the firm faith in the holy name. He had firm faith in the power of Krishna. And when he was traveling across the ocean, he expressed in a poem, I know I cannot do it, but my dear Guru, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you, by the mercy of Krishna, can help make it happen. That is the mood of a devotee, accomplishing great things for Krishna, while knowing I do not have that power. That is the key for us to work in this world. This Mama Eva Amsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So this is one part of this verse. The next part of this verse, Manashasthani Indrani Prakritisthani Karshati. As long as we're in this material world, we are under the we are being forced into doing certain activities by this 6 indriyas, because it is controlled by Prakriti. And it's controlled by Prakriti because we allow ourselves to be controlled by Prakriti. But the moment we allow ourselves to be controlled by Mama, that is Krishna, not us, this Krishna, because Krishna is speaking this, then this problem doesn't arise further. Okay. So then Krishna says, what is the problem? What is the problem of being in the material world? The problem of being in this material world is Shariram yad avapnoti yad chapi utkramati shwaraha grihitvaitani samyati vayur gandan ivashayat. He says, the living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus it takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. This verse is important for us in the sense that our aspirations and our desires of this life get carried forward to the next life. That's what Krishna is telling here. So when we go from one body of the another body, our conceptions of life go from one body to the other body. It is not my bodily features which go, but what I conceive of this world. For example, I may think the people in this world are there to satisfy me. Or I may think that eating good food is what is the best thing in this world. I need to eat good food. Or I may think people of that religion are such a bad set of people. I hate people of that religion. All these conceptions, name it. These conceptions go from one birth to another birth. And that is why it is very important that we purify our conceptions. So what happens if we carry these conceptions? Say, for example, all that I want here is um, I like to eat anything in this world. I like to taste different new things here. I want to try the taste of this. I want to try the taste of that. Um, we may very well be born as a tiger or a pig. No inhibitions on killing anybody, eating anything, etc. That becomes our problem. Or I want to enjoy the embrace of a lady. We may be born as a tree. Or I want to be in a place where nobody can find me. This whole world, it's such that they're just always trying to find some fault in me. I don't like that. I just want to be in a place where nobody can find me. We'll be born as a cockroach. Nobody finds us. Go to the darkest place. Be away from light. So our conceptions take us from one body to the other body. Let me come to the PowerPoint, which has some nice illustrations here. So, na tad bhasyate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. So this is the spiritual world where Krishna is present with all his associates. There seems, so this in this spiritual world, you see a moon, you see these trees, etc. But all of them get their light from Krishna here. Okay. So within the spiritual world, there are 5 types of loving exchanges. These loving exchanges are in the mood of servitorship, in the mood of friendship, in the mood like as a friend, he's dancing here in the bottom right side, in the mood of conjugal love in the top right side, in the mood of parental love, the top left side. So in all, and in the mood of neutrality, there is also the trees and others who, and they have a mixture of neutrality and servitude mood. Both they have. So even the cows here are serving dasyam. They just want, the cows here want to just serve him here. So all these different kinds of relationships exist within the spiritual world. And when a living entity chooses to serve Krishna, in the earlier chapters, we said that this is called as akarma. Akarma frees one from the cycle of birth and death, and also awards the living entity with the supreme destination. So what is the identity of the living entity that we discussed now? Mama eva amsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha. He's just his amsha. So we say there's a lot of disparity in the world. People are of different colors. People are of different psychophysical nature, different intellectual abilities, physical abilities, etc. Right? Some people are rich. Some people are poor. Some people are strong, some are weak. They don't even have certain limbs, and yet they try to accomplish things in this world. Some people are beautiful, and some are ugly, by our perception, right? And some people are healthy, some people are diseased. There's so much disparity in this world. And the question that comes is, what is the root cause of this disparity? This disparity is coming because of the different kinds of activities that we have performed. Depending on the past karmic activities, we get a corresponding body. And having obtained a body, like say, for example, somebody is very beautiful. I'm not sure this is, I think it's Deepika Padukone. Yeah, I think that's what she is. No, is this Deepika Padukone? No, this is Sonam Kapoor, I guess. Okay, somebody. So somebody may be beautiful according at some point in time, but they have received one benediction, say so to say. But are they using it for their spiritual growth? That's the other question. If a person doesn't use the body that one receives for one's spiritual growth, then he or she may very much exhaust their pious credits and be born as this ugly person later. Because it's not just exhausting the pious credits. Every day when we are walking in this world, we are accumulating a lot of impious credits. There are so many ants walking along the road. I'm killing them. When I switch on the gas stove for cooking, there are so many bacteria that are getting killed. When I eat food, even if I take vegetarian food, so many organisms are getting killed. What is the need for organisms in this world to serve me? If I'm not helping something for these organisms, why is it that they have to serve me by becoming my food? So if I don't use them in Krishna service, then I am just going to accumulate impious credits, and finally this is what is going to happen. We don't get a good body, we don't get good money, we don't get good education, we'll find it very hard, and we'll struggle. Karshati, the word that we use there, that's what happens. Karshati, we struggle in this material world. So we are very proud of our beauty, our education, etc. But all this is just fleeting, because we are under the illusion that this amsha is the whole. That this amsha, if it is a whole, it means there is full control. And amsha doesn't, or a part, it doesn't have control of the whole. We think that I am in control of this beauty. And it just takes some few years to understand how the beauty just leaves us and we are gone, right? So Krishna says, this transmigration of the soul, who can see and who cannot see here? So let's go to that verse 10 and 11. So Krishna says, the living entity taking another gross body obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. A fish in the sea very much likes being in the sea because it likes the touch of the water, and it likes to eat food in a particular way. A pig in the world likes its own body, and we like our own body. And Krishna says in verse 10 and 11, the foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all of this. For example, if a person is always trying to find faults in others and trying to say, this is my property, this is my territory, don't enter here, etc., being very territorial in nature, the wise man realizes this person is just is developing himself to get a body as a dog in the next life. Because what does a dog do? The dog just barks, and the dog always is careful about its territory. It doesn't even allow another dog to come into its territory. It's so obsessed about territory, right? So the wise person whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see this. And Krishna says in text 11, the endeavoring transcendentalist who are situated in self-realization can see all of this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try. So to be situated in self-realization means reading this Bhagavad Gita periodically and chanting the holy name. When that happens, we can catch ourselves when we are doing things which will take us to a hopeless state of existence. Worst case, we should get a body by which we can continue our spiritual practices. Best case, we go back to the spiritual world. That should be the objective of a devotee. But if the worst case is a free-falling way, fall down to the state of becoming an animal, that's very tough for us. Why? Because we have tasted the value of association of devotees. How can we cherish the association of devotees in lower bodily forms? There were some exceptional devotees like Bharata and others who took the form of a deer and took the association of saints, etc. But we are not those exceptional devotees too. We have not done such exceptional austerities too. So we have to be careful about it. One other thing, I mean, I said this, but I just want to re-emphasize it here. This text 7 here. Mamayavamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. This amsha. Just a moment, please. Yeah. The amsha, sometimes people who have come to a spiritual path think that now that I am associated with the spiritual path, I should always be successful, or people of this path should be successful. In fact, in the West, in the United States especially, there is something called as the prosperity gospel. Every Sunday, there are these pastors who run this Sunday service in the church for the church in huge stadiums. 40 to 50,000 people attend this prosperity gospel. And what they say, you come here, let us discuss the glory of God here. Let us discuss how we can progress in life. And if you come to our church here, then you will be successful. And look, this person started coming to our church. He has made so much money, and now he's giving a portion of this money as a teething, as a teeth, as what they call it in Christianity. About like 5%, 10%, something like that of their earnings, they give it to the church. And that makes everybody think, I too can be successful if I follow this church. That is not what Krishna is telling here. This amsha means it's not that we will be successful in what we do. Only when mama amsha, when we try to do activities connecting us to the Supreme Lord, not binding us to this material world, but connecting to the Supreme Lord, then Krishna will give us success way beyond what we can think. The example again, the same Srila Prabhupada's example. Throughout his life, was he a very rich person? No. And when he did get many disciples, did he try to enjoy it? No. Did he say that I'm the cause for this? No. He only said, my spiritual master is doing all of this. And towards the end of his life, he had kidney problems, and because of which he was bedridden. And he told all his disciples, all of you come and see. This is what is going to happen to each and every one of you. As long as we are in this body, we will be subject to birth, death, old age, disease, and death. Sorry, death I already said. So disease and death, come and see here. He didn't try to tell, look, I am just going to live in a yogic way. He could have done it, but he wanted to show to his disciples, don't try to be Superman. Better be a humble devotee than try to be a Superman. Deep within us, most of us want to be one of those supermen or superwomen who want to show our accomplishment. And that's the problem. That's actually indicating we are under the modes of this material nature, the sattva, rajas, and tamas, which was discussed earlier, which will be discussed further in the following chapters. So when people come and say that guru has so many followers, therefore we should go behind that guru. This is not what Krishna is trying to tell mama eva amsho. Success in this material world is temporary. Suddenly somebody may have many followers or he may have less followers. We don't judge a devotee or a guru on the basis of how many followers or how many buildings or how many temples or how much wealth he has. We judge him by how closely he or she follows the scripture, tells the same thing as what is given in the scripture and follows that in his own life. That is how we judge, not by external aspects such as wealth, number of buildings, institutions, etc. Okay, it's 7:47. I will come to the last few verses soon here. Now, so Krishna has said that the jiva is amsha, but now he says, don't think that just because in this material world you're struggling, I am not there for you. In fact, I'm there for you. And he says, I am maintaining your body, mind, and soul at multiple levels. He says in the verse 12, I am going to make arrangements for you at a cosmological level. Verse 13, within this Earth planetary system, I make arrangement across universes. Within Earth, that is 15:13, and then physiological arrangement, 14, and then the fifth spiritual arrangement. I make arrangements for you. It's not like you are left all on your own. Just like a father or a mother, like most of your parents, you all very well know how tough it is to raise a child. When the child is small, we have to be constantly around the child so that just to protect the child. When the child grows up, we'll have to guide the child in the right direction. We'll have to give the right impetus to the child at the right times. That is the spiritual arrangement which we're going to talk about. We'll have to give food to at the right time. That is the physiological arrangement in 1514. So we do some of the things which God is doing for us, or rather, to put it differently, because we are part and parcel of Krishna, we have certain characteristics of God in us. God takes care of us in some way. We take care of other living entities in a similar way. God can do at a level of cosmological arrangements, even terrestrial arrangements, that is on planet Earth. We can do mostly at physiological and a little bit spiritual. This is where we are limited to. So Krishna says here in this verse, in the verse 12, Yat adityagatam tejo jagat bhasyate akilam yat chandramasi yatcha agnau tat tejo vidi mam akam. So coming here to the 12th verse, Krishna says, the splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. We need sunlight, we need moonlight, we need fire in this world. Krishna said, Na tad bhasyate suryo, na shashanko, na pavakaha. My world doesn't require it, but your world requires it. And I will ensure I provide it for you. So that's Krishna's kindness. Just because, if you want to come to me, you come to me, I'll take care of you. Otherwise, you are on your own. That is not what Krishna says. Even if you don't want me, you want to be in this material world, you want to disparage my very existence, no problem. Even then, I will take care of you by giving you what you need. And this characteristic of Krishna is what makes a spiritualist strong. He says, my Lord, he doesn't bother what people think about him. And yet he's in the mood of giving. In the same way, we should also not be bothered about what people think about us. Just as an example, my spiritual master, for many years, he was taking care of certain aspects here. He had certain aspects within ISKCON. And it so happened that there was one child who was a child of his god brother. The word god brother means his father was also the disciple of Srila Prabhupada. My spiritual master is the disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and this child whose father is also the disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Something happened in the life of the child, and the child felt that nobody was taking care of him, people abused him, etc., etc. So when the child grew up, he needed money to go to college, etc. And his father, for many years, he was serving Srila Prabhupada's mission by distributing books, etc. And his father didn't have enough money for the child's education. So my spiritual master got some donation from somebody, and secretly, without speaking to anybody, he was taking care, even without the child knowing, he was giving to that young boy. He just ensured that he gets an admission into a college which he likes to go. Why? Where is this quality coming from? This quality is coming from Krishna. Quietly, without anybody telling, without anybody knowing, Krishna is making arrangements for us. And devotees too are like that. Quietly, without anybody knowing, they just are remaining in the background and they do things. So one of the tests for our own progress is the more and more we yearn for recognition, we are not connected with the Supreme Lord. Or conversely, the less that we yearn for recognition and just being happy for Krishna coming in the life of others, irrespective of whether we get recognition or not, that indicates we are progressing. In fact, this desire for recognition is the last thing that will go out of us in our path to spirituality. It is the toughest thing to leave. It's very tough to leave. Someday we'll go through a series of verses called the Manas Shiksha by Raghunath Das Goswami. And in that verse, Raghunath Das Goswami actually tells that how the desire for fame and recognition is like donkey urine. Nobody likes to bathe with donkey urine, but this desire for fame and recognition is like bathing in donkey urine. And why it is donkey urine, etc., we'll read some other day. Okay, or we'll hear some other day. So after giving all of these, then he says, Gam avishyasi, gam avishya cha bhutani, dharyami aham ojasa, pushnami cha aushadihi, sarvaha soma bhutvo rasatmakaha. So here, 12, 13 is a terrestrial arrangement here, right? So he enters into each planet, and by his energy, they stay in orbit. He becomes the moon and thereby supplies the juice of life to all living entities. Modern science may not accept it. It is the moonlight which gives the nourishment to the vegetables at night. And thereby, we who eat these vegetables get the strength and vigor. So even to arrange things within the earthly planet, that the earth should stay in orbit, it should not clash and enter into the sun, etc. All of that is taken care by Krishna. Next, he comes inside our body and he says, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha Prana Apana Samayuktaha Pachami Annam Chaturvidam. He says, I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of living entities. And I join with Prana Apana. There are 5 pranas: Prana, Apana, Vyana, Udana, Samana. He joins with the air of life, the outgoing and the incoming, to digest the different kinds of food stuff. So even to digest the food, he comes and helps us. You know, like how a parent, they nicely mash the food for a young infant. They make it not like having grains, etc. They make it very soft and smooth. They put all different ingredients, even some vegetables, they mash it nicely, because a child cannot eat raw vegetables, you know, like pieces of vegetables as is. The mother will ensure that it is taken in a digestible form. So for us grown-ups, we still need the help of digestion, and that digestion help is given by Krishna. So Krishna, in this, he has a spiritual world. We are his part and parcel, and although we are in this material world, he is helping us. That's what Krishna is telling in this 15th chapter here, right? Then comes 15th verse, which is a very important verse here. I will go through this. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarve rahameva vedyo vedanta krit vedavid eva cha aham. Sarvasya cha aham hridi sannivishto. He says, after helping in digestion, I am also there in everyone's heart as the Paramatma. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. I am there in everybody's heart. From me comes Mattaha smritir jnanam apohanam. Smriti means remembrance, jnanam is knowledge, apohanam is forgetfulness. So the faculty of knowledge that we're getting is the one given by the Paramatma. Our ability to recall is given by the Paramatma, and when we go from one body to another body, or as we age, we have to forget all the traumas that happened in as when we were young or in our middle age, etc. That ability to forget it is also given by Krishna. He makes life easy for us. And then he says, Vedescha sarve rahameva vedyo. From all the Vedas, the one who has to be known is me. Aham, that is Krishna, is one who has to be known. So if somebody thinks there are so many Vedic literature, what is the purpose of it? Krishna is telling in this 15th verse of 15th chapter, the purpose of all the Vedas is finally to know me. Vedanta Krit. I am the composer of the Vedas, both originally and now as Veda Vyasa. Vedavid cha aham. I am certainly the knower of the Vedas. Because I have composed, I know the Vedas. So there, and I am the goal of the Vedas. So if people think, hey, there is a Devi Bhagavatam, hey, there is this Shiva Puran, that says this way, this Devi Bhagavatam will talk about the greatness of Devi. The Shiva Purana talks about the greatness of Lord Shiva. We should understand that all of these are different literatures which finally try to bring us towards Krishna. Because Krishna said, Vedescha sarve. The Smritis, the Shrutis, the Itihasas, the Puranas, all of them are part of the Vedic canon. And from all of them, who has to be known? Ahameva Vedyo. Krishna alone has to be known, understood. If we are not trying to understand Krishna from all of this, then we are certainly missing the point. And now comes the next set of summary verses that Krishna is going to talk about here. Because it's getting late, I'll just rush through a few things. These summary verses are very, very important. These 16 to 18, essence in 3 verses. And this is very important for some of you who come from a different philosophical background. Krishna says, Dua imau purushau loke ksharascha akshara evacha sharaha sarvani bhutani kutasto akshara uchyate. He says there are two kinds of dua imau purushau loke. There are dua imau, two kinds of purushau, people or persons, loke, in this world. The word loke also means is told in the Vedas, because it comes from the word lokyati, that which sees. How can we see something in this world? We can see on the basis of some existing body of knowledge. What is the best body of knowledge? That is the Vedas. So the Vedas say that there are two kinds of Purusha in this world. Who are they? Ksharaha cha akshara evacha. One of them is called the Kshara and the other is called the Akshara. Ksharaha sarvani bhutani. Ksharaha, this Kshara means all these living entities. The word Kshara also means something that can be destroyed. So what happens? We are these different living entities. We take one body, we leave it, go to the other body. Our bodies get destroyed. Kutasto akshara uchyate. But akshara are those whose body doesn't change. Who are these akshara? They are the liberated entities. They don't have to go from one birth to another birth. They are in their eternal spiritual bodies. So he says, Dvavima Purusho Loke, there are the liberated entities who are the Akshara, and there are the conditioned living souls like us who are the Kshara. Then, very important, let us, see here. Uttama Purushastu Anyaha Paramatmeti Udahritaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Vibharti Avyaya Ishvaraha. Uttama Purushaha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, tu is definitely Anyaha. Word Anyaha means different, separate, distinct. The Uttama Purusha is different from the Kshara and the Akshara, from the conditioned living entities and from the liberated living entities. Some of us come from this philosophical background that at the stage of liberation, we become one with the absolute truths. Is that correct? No. Krishna, at least from Krishna, I don't know about other scriptures. Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita is telling the Supreme Lord Uttama Purusha is Anya from or different from both the liberated and the conditioned living souls. And what is he called? Paramatmeti Udahritaha. He is known as Paramatma Iti. He is the Paramatma within the heart. Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Bibharti Avyaya Ishvaraha. Let me go to the translation here. Besides these two, there is a greatest living personality, Uttama Purusha, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. Okay? So this is very important for us to understand. If we don't understand this, we cannot get true liberation. We will be in illusion thinking that we are in liberation, but no. As long as we know that the absolute truth is different from us, that we are meant to serve him, we are said to have not progressed. And then we'll come to the 17th, having come to the 7th, let's come to the 18th verse here. Yasmaksharam atito aham aksharad apicha uttamaha ato asmi loke vedecha pradita purushottamaha. Because I'm transcendental. Yasmat ksharam atithat. Transcendental to this fallible, aham, aksharat, both to the fallible and infallible. I'm beyond both of these. That is beyond the baddha jivas, or the jivas who are there in this material world, and the mukta jivas, those who are liberated. Apicha, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in this world and in the Vedas. Loke. Loke is this world, and the Loke Vedecha. Loke in the world and Vede Pratitaha, celebrated as Uttama Purushaha. Okay. Then Krishna says, Yo mam eva asammudho janati purushottamam sa sarva vid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. He says, Yo mam eva asammudha, the one without asammuda, without doubt. Janati, knows me as Purushottama, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttama Purusha. Here, Sa Sarvavid Bhajati Mam. What does he do? He does bhajati. He renders devotional service. The word bhakti has the root bhaj. It comes from the dhatu bhaj in Sanskrit. So such a person renders devotional service unto whom? Mam, unto me. Sarva bhavena, in all respects, O son of Bharata. So this is the essence which Krishna is saying. He says, this is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. I'll pause here. Any comments or realizations or something that you'd like to share?
Prabhu,
Yes.
I'm having a discussion actually. With someone who doesn't, who is not non-devotee basically. So then we feel right that ultimately everything is decided and given by Krishna only.
Oh,
we are only the instrument.
I mean,
So
whose idea is this? This is the idea of, this is your idea, or this is the idea of that person whom you are speaking to?
No, what we believe. We
Okay.
believe, right, that everything is given by Krishna ultimately. We are only the instruments. So the question was like, if everything is given by Krishna only, then why do you guys work? Why do you guys send your kids to the good schools? And why do you have so many of desires? Because your the desire should be only to leave it to Krishna. But
correct.
we have all other desires.
So the assumption is wrong. It is not that everything is given by Krishna. Krishna gives us what we want. Our thing here is, Krishna gives us what we want, and according to the karma that we have. So there is a desire and there is a deserve. We do not have ability to get things either as per our desire or deserve, or what we deserve, and that's given by Krishna. But the choice of what we desire and what we deserve is up to us. The choice of desiring is with us. How to act so that we get something that we can deserve is with us. So our desire, so in one sense, as far as children's education is concerned, it's a different thing to think about the best school or best college or university, etc. Ideally, what we need here is, according to the psychophysical nature of the children, we should educate them in such a way that they can become connected, they can use their skills to serve God. For that, we have to be instruments here. So just like, what we learned today, the Supreme Lord himself is serving us. And therefore, we who are an amsha of the Supreme Lord should also serve other amshas. And especially we have some on whom we have control, that is our children, or I shouldn't use the word control, we have the responsibility. Just like the Supreme Lord has responsibility towards us, we too have responsibility towards those who are depending on us. And especially a guru, the more a disciple depends on the guru, the guru will take care of him. And Supreme Lord will also take care of those who depend more on him. So now the argument that comes is, don't do anything and just depend on the Supreme Lord. That is not what is being told here. It is the mercy of the Supreme Lord that he gives intelligence to say, identify this talent in your child. Identify that your child needs this training. Identify that such and such a person can give your child this training. That is also the benediction that the Supreme Lord, the intelligence that he has given us. If he has given that intelligence, we should act on that. It is not that we should wait for the Supreme Lord to personally come and take our child to a particular school and make him do everything. We should not try to make the Supreme Lord our servant. Those who are asking so are actually trying to make the Supreme Lord our servant. He is very happy to do so, but we should be more eager to become his servant than asking him to become our servant. So our answer is, it is incorrect to say that we become inert living entities having understood this knowledge. The mama jiva, mamaivaamsho means we perform activities of this world to connect to that absolute truth. So the purpose of education should be to connect to him. It can be reciting Vedic hymns, it can be understanding the Vedic literature, or it can even be a skill. Somebody is required to carve deities. somebody is required to build temples. Somebody is required to put the electricity in for everybody's house so that they can hear this lecture. So many things. So there is a very famous verse in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Rupa Goswami, the father of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has written. He says, Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatarham Upayunjataha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Uchchate. Vairagyam is said to be yuktam. Yukta Vairagyam Uchchate. Vairagyam is said to be appropriate. The word yuktam means appropriate when Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatarham Upayunjataha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. When we use things of this world in service to Krishna, and we are not attached to enjoying things of this world, then the Vairagya is said to be appropriate. But when we discard things of this world and not use it in service of Krishna, it is called Falgu Vairagya. In the Bihar area, I think now it is in Chhattisgarh, it's either Bihar or Chhattisgarh, I don't know. There's a river called the Falgu River. The river is like maximum knee deep, and usually it is just ankle deep. You can walk across the river easily. So it is a very shallow river. So there is a shallow version of Vairagya, where we leave things of this world and don't use it in the service of Krishna. That is not what the scriptures teach us. They want us Yukta Vairagya, appropriate Vairagya, use things of this world in the service of Krishna. Which things of this world to be used for whom? That requires some guidance, that requires some intelligence. And we have to live with how much ever guidance and intelligence we receive. At least we should be actively reaching out to devotees to help for help on these aspects. Is it of any use, Mataji? Or I didn't address the core point. You still have something that I would like to address.
No, Prabhuji. I think I understood one point was very clear, that we can't think of making Krishna itself as a servant for us. I think that helps. And I think one, I know some part of answer, but it's still like you were mentioning about the Devi Bhagavatam, and it's like there are multiple of scriptures. So they say that you say it is your belief that you say that this is supreme or based upon the Gita. So Gita is the first, but similarly, the Devi Bhagavatam is also written similarly. So I mean, it's you who are deciding this is supreme. How to handle?
How to handle? What is? I mean, you said you know part of the answer. Can I know what part of answer you know? Maybe that's all I too may know.
The part of answer which I feel like one or other person. I mean, somehow when we, I haven't read, but I have only heard about the Devi Bhagavatam and all. But I don't feel the authenticity. I mean, somewhere the links are broken. I feel when I ask, like, okay, what is the origin, or when it was said, or some of the links when I'm trying to connect, the links are not connecting. So I feel like that all these things are written on top of what was already present. So the base was already present. The base was diverted, and something else was given.
Okay, I see. From disciplic succession, what we have heard, what we understand is, like you say, for example, there are the Puranas itself. Devi Bhagavatam doesn't come under that category of Puranas. There are 18 Puranas. They're classified into the Puranas of this mode of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Now, two things have spoken about it. Number one, there are people in this world who get attracted to certain aspects of the absolute truth, not the complete aspect. So, for example, one of the partial aspects of the absolute truth is there in Lord Shiva. I mean, he is the greatest devotee of the Supreme Lord. He is not equal to the Supreme Lord. That is fine. But there is an element of compassion in him. He takes all these, this Charas Bhang and all those people and takes them to higher stages of realization. Those who are in extreme mode of ignorance, he has his compassion on those kind of people. The people who have tendencies for self-destruction, he takes care of them. He does the most thankless task in that sense. Nobody likes to deal with people who have severe mental issues or psychiatric or psychological issues. He takes care of those kind of people. And so they get attracted to him. And Krishna has given this kind of a system so that people can get attracted to different devotees who are different devotees of Krishna, and those devotees of Krishna can bring them to him. It's a system that he has created. Everybody cannot go with the direct path. The path of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam is the direct path. Not everybody is ready for it. So take few more steps and go through. And the advantage is that the core Vedic principles are present even in those scriptures, and therefore one is purified at least at the level of the Vedic Dharma level. And even if one doesn't go to the highest spiritual realization, and it so happens that these very entities, Goddess Durga, Lord Shiva, etc., when a person does do something sincerely, they will give inspiration from within to move to Krishna. Because they are controllers of this world. A person is made a controller of this world only when they have the confidence of the Supreme Lord. Or a person is made the manager of an organization only when they have the confidence of the vice president or the CTO or the president of that organization. So Krishna has confidence in Lord Shiva, Goddess Durga, Kartikeya, Lord Ganesh, etc. And he says, okay, these people are not ready for me directly. You take them for some time and then you can bring them back to me. And these deities themselves, they do not want to bring the attention on themselves. They know they are an amsha of the Supreme Lord. They want to bring them back to Krishna. So they use their attraction that these entities of this world have for Lord Shiva and gradually bring them to the Supreme Lord. So Lord Shiva has a particular aspect called Dakshinamurti, where he's facing the southern direction and he's teaching the sages about Krishna. So even if one goes to Shivaloka, what happens next? One goes to Krishna only. That's what it happens. So it's a circumlocutus route, or it's a roundabout way of doing things, not the direct way. And there is a danger. One may fall off from that here and go to some other path. One may get stagnated, etc. All those dangers are there. But Krishna wants to cover the widest gamut of population as possible and help everybody to be reinstated in their original spiritual nature. Because we are all fish out of water and we don't realize it. In this material world, we are fish out of water. He wants us fishes to come back to Tadhama Paramam Mama, to that spiritual world where we feel like we are the fish within the water. We are in our natural surroundings. Is that of help, Mataji, or you want me to add some more?
No, Prabhuji, I think I'm fine.
Okay.
At least till now, I'm fine.
Okay.
Maybe I'll get some other confusion afterwards.
Yes. Okay, sure. Any other comment, question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please share your comments.
One comment and one point related to Mataji's question. So now how do you know Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead? I mean, how do you know the Bhagavad Gita's authority? So just a couple of points that was coming to my mind quickly. One is Arjuna himself in Bhagavad Gita, he mentions that Narada, Asita, Devala, Vyasa. So these great sages, they have accepted Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. It's not only that devotees are speaking or something, but he's giving the reference, because in the previous shloka, he says that you are Parabrahma, Param Dhamam, Pavitram, Param. So he says that you are great, but that is not only my opinion. It is actually based on the understanding of the great sages. So that's one point that was coming. It's not some something that imaginarily we are assuming that Krishna is a god and whatever he speaks in Bhagavad Gita is actually supreme, or it's a one. It's the greatest and all others are no. There is a thing. Second thing, that the great acharyas which came in disciplic succession, and they have also mentioned the same thing, like Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Srila Prabhupada. So when these all great acharyas have mentioned that Krishna, and they have proved Jiva Goswami and all these 6 Goswamis, and they have proved that the supremacy of Lord Sri Krishna. So for us, being at our level, it is more wise and it's appropriate to understand their experience, their realization, and all the great sages which Arjuna had mentioned in Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you for bringing in those points, Kishore Prabhu.
And just one
yes, please,
question which can help again. Mataji's question was that, and I'm asking the same question. If you can please help throw some light on that, which was that we are supposed to do our duty. And at the same time, this is the typical question comes that, and at the same time, we have to be nimitta matra. So what exactly does it mean being nimitta matra, and how to synthesize these two statements? At one point in time, we are saying that we have to do our own duty. At the same time, we are told that we have to be nimitta matra. So if you can help Prabhu to have some light on this, so that that becomes the more deeper understanding.
I don't know whether it will be deeper. I can just share some understanding, Prabhu. Maybe Kumarika Mataji can bring in the deeper aspect here. The nimit, often when we talk about these verses, we think that we are just nimitta matras, that we are just an instrument, and it's like unconscious entity, like a doctor takes care of a scalpel, or a surgeon takes care of some knife, and he does it. It is not the knife which is in charge of it. It is the surgeon who is using the knife, who is cutting some bodily organs and repairing some organs, etc. So we think of in those terms, but our life in this world is a little different from that. There is the aspect of desire too. Desire cannot be taken away from a jiva. So our role here is to identify desires which will help serve the Supreme Lord and his associates. So we should develop and cultivate those desires. And the fulfillment of that comes through the empowerment coming from the Supreme Lord. It is not that we have to let go of the desires and are waiting for, where was Lord, let somebody come and tell me to do something. No, initiative is very much part of the life of a devotee. These initiatives will come from a closer understanding of the study of the scriptures and from the process of chanting of the holy name. I've heard a lot of people coming and telling me, I don't know what's the purpose of my life. I know that, yes, there is Krishna, who's the Supreme Lord. We have to go to him. I can do that. I'm chanting for some time. But what else can I do in my life? Is that all that I should do? In some cases, we can help them identify their strengths. We can help them identify the talent that Krishna has given them and use it in the service of Krishna. Because there's a very famous verse which says, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grahyam indriyaihi sevon mukehi jihvado swayameva spuratyadaha. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi, the name, the form, the qualities, the pastimes of Krishna, na bhavet grahyam indriyaihi. It cannot be captured by our senses alone. Sevon mukehi jihvado. It is only by service. Swayameva spuratyadaha. The name, form, qualities, pastimes, etc. are automatically revealed. So the seva is very important. So the question that comes is, what is that seva that has to be done? And for that seva, it has to be a mixture of my desire and trying to fulfill the desire of other great devotees in this world. Both have to be present. It cannot be always from outside. Some have to be from my own desire and some from outside. For example, for Srila Prabhupada, his spiritual master's desire was to spread Krishna consciousness in countries outside of US. Prabhupada's desire was to spread Krishna Bhakti within India. And he did both. He started with spreading Bhakti in India, didn't succeed, went to the West, it succeeded, then came back to India with his Western disciples, and it succeeded there. So this desire to spread Krishna Katha is from the Chaitanya Bhagavat, where and in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted others to get access to the sweetness of the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Krishna. He wanted everybody to get access to it. So likewise, the nimitta matra means I have a desire and that pure devotee has a desire. Krishna is very happy with that pure devotee, and therefore, whatever needs to be done, he will help me. And I will be helped to the extent that I contribute to the overall mission. Maybe my role is only so much, and somebody else has to come and do a greater role. I am not going to think of my success as I did 10% or 100%. Rather, my success is I was used in the mission of the Supreme Lord, and therefore my success is there. So that happiness coming in being, it is a happiness of just being used as an instrument. And for that, we have to desire and we have to volunteer for it. Nothing comes just by sitting as is and doing it. The more and more we volunteer, automatically more services will also come to us. Krishna will come and give it. In fact, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is a yearning for more service to Radha and Krishna. And therefore, we should not be in a passive mood of somebody will come and tell something and I do it. We should be in the active role for doing services for Krishna. I took it in a different way itself, Yugalakishwar Prabhu. You wanted it differently, or you may want to add something more. Would you like to?
Thank you, Prabhu. I think that was a different aspect that you brought in, and that gives a better understanding. My just one thought in addition to that was that when we say nimitta matra, that there is a plan from Krishna, and we have to align with that plan. And that is the nimitta matra. So, but how do you understand what is a plan? And that plan, we cannot understand our own. We have to understand from acharyas, spiritual master, and aligning with that. So that was.
I will interrupt you here, Prabhu. Sometimes we don't even need to understand the plan. The plan is way beyond us. It spans several generations and generations of living entities. Nimitta matra, becoming an instrument, means be humble enough to be used by the acharyas and by Krishna. Be happy. I mean, what is the plan is taking us to the future. The nimitta matra is telling, be happy with the present. My happiness is I was used. How it will lead to somebody getting benefited or not, that is way beyond my comprehension. Or it is not even required to be known. And sometimes we want to know how everything is, all the puzzle pieces of the puzzle fit together, because we want to become that Supreme Lord, knowing everything. We don't want to be that Amsha. And Amsha cannot know the whole fully. Krishna has also said in the Bhagavad Gita, nobody can know me in full. And that's one problem that we often have, of wanting to know everything. We can't. And it's just the Amsha is finite. We have to reconcile to the fact that we are finite. Yes, Prabhu, please go ahead, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, I think thanks for that. That is what I was just saying. Nimitta matra is that being used by Krishna's devotees, disciplic succession, coming in the disciplic succession.
Yeah.
And at the same time, not to be idle, as you said, that not to remain idle or something, because even in Bhagavad Gita, Lord says that you cannot even remain idle for a moment. So we have to be active, but in what activity is what comes from when we are being used by the acharyas or this spiritual master. So this is how I was thinking, being synthesizing these two different statements, and you also help in that way to understand. Thank you.
Just one addition here. The moment a service comes our way, we should know that, hey, Krishna is happy with me. In some cases, we'll be having time, energy, resources to do that. Some we may not. We should try our best to render that service. But the very fact that we are getting service for Krishna itself is a cause for happiness, which is I am being used as an instrument. So nice. And Krishna is recognizing my utility. Thank you, Krishna. That should be our mood always. Okay, I will most likely end here. It's almost 8:30. Any other quick comment from any of the devotees here?